Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to teach you an easy no-knead sourdough bread recipe. This recipe is simple, using very little ingredients, and trust me, once you understand the art of sourdough, this is going to be easy. Now, before you get started, if you already have an established sourdough starter, you're going to go ahead and make sure it is hydrated and fed properly. I like to do this about 8 to 10 hours before I'm actually starting to bake my bread. So here I am the night before feeding it, and the next day I'm going to come and revisit it. And with a bowl on a scale, this is new to me, measuring out all of my liquid and all of my solids. But basically, you're going to put a bowl on there, zero it out. It's going to be in grams. You're going to put 250 grams of bread flour and 250 all-purpose flour. So you want good quality flour. Now, I've seen conflicting things with the type of flour. Just try to do what you can afford, and that is what is best for you. The biggest thing with sourdough, you just have to remember, is you have to understand feeding it and the leavening of the bread. So that's when the bread rises and doubles in size. Depending on your house, could take anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. My house is on the cooler side, so it takes a little bit longer. Now I'm going to add about 350 grams of water to this, and I kind of go in slowly and put that in there. If you're a little bit off, it's not a big deal. I've done this before and it hasn't affected my sourdough at all. After that, I'm going to add 70 grams of sourdough starter and 10 grams of Himalayan sea salt. I will have the recipe linked below, so if you're following along and you're just paying attention to what's going on and watching the video, just remember you can go head over there, click on the link below, and you can print the recipe out and make it yourself. I also have on my blog tons of sourdough recipes, from cookies to cakes, and even just to get started. Now at this point, you're going to want to combine all the ingredients together. I usually like to do this with my hands because I am able to not only feel the dough, but it just seems to incorporate everything a little bit easier. So that is what I'm doing here. Now, if you find that your hands get tons of sourdough bread dough all over it, get them a little bit wet and then repeat the cycle around again, and most of it should come off of your hands. Now, at this point, you're going to put it all combined in the dough, and you are going to cover it, and you are going to let it sit until it doubles inside. This is where the no kneading is very important. So this is actually 12 to 24 hours later, depending on your house. But for my house, because it is cold, this was almost 24 hours later. I'm going to take all of the dough out of the bowl and put it onto a lightly floured countertop. At this point, I am trying to get ready to shape the dough so it can do its final proofing. So basically what you see right now is I'm just shaping it into a large ball. And once that happens, I'm going to set it on the flour countertop, cover it with that bowl again, and let it sit there for about 20 minutes. Now it's time to shape your dough into a loaf or into a round. It can be round or oval. This is the time you're going to do it. So basically here I am taking the dough and I'm stretching it out as long as I can, making a giant square or rectangle. Once I do that, I'm going to fold it in half, but I'm going to fold it in half 2 or 3 times, and you're going to see that here in a minute, so stay with me. Then you're going to fold it again in half, so it's going to fold over and then over and then over, and then it should be a long rectangle. You're going to fold it over over and over. So now it's a small square. Once that happens, you need to create a little tension with the dough. So you're actually going to take the round ball or square, depending on the shape, and push it away from you and then bring it back to you. You're going to push it away from you and then back to you, creating like a U shape on the counter. But the U is going to be upside down. So you can think of a rainbow or a U. You're going to do this depending on the tension in the dough. This could take about 5 to 10 times of doing it. My dough kept kind of losing its shape in the very beginning. So I reshaped it and then repeated that, pushing towards you guys and then bringing it back to me in that U shape. Once that happens, that's when it's going to be ready to be put into a flour basket. So I'm flouring my basket here. Now, if you don't have one of these baskets, just take a bowl and then put like a tea towel in there and flour that to put your shaped sourdough. So here I'm taking the dough and I'm bringing the ball that we created, the tension we created, and bringing it towards the center and pinching it together. And then I'm going to cover this. You want to make sure you completely cover this. When you put it in the refrigerator, if you're going to do a cold fermentation, which that's what we're going to do. And I highly recommend doing this because I like to do this the night before and then in the morning bake the bread, or vice versa. So here we are in the morning. I pulled it out of the refrigerator and I placed it on parchment paper. I lightly dusted the top and created slashes in the dough. And the reason we're putting those slashes in the dough, a large one right here, is so if there's any it gives it that spring, it gives it the crust in the bread, and it lets the steam escape, so therefore it won't explode. The bread won't explode in the oven. So if you have stuck with me thus far, you in a cast iron Dutch oven, you are going to make sure it's nice and warm in a preheated 500 degree oven. So I usually start my oven preheated at 500 degrees to get this warm, and I place the sourdough bread inside there and I bake it at 500 for about 20 minutes. And then I lower the oven to 450 and bake for another 10 minutes. And then I remove the lid and bake it for another 10 minutes. And here you are. Isn't this beautiful? I was so happy and so impressed with this. This was actually perfect. We got a little bit of a crunch on the outside and it was soft and delicious in the inside. Now, I do recommend waiting for at least 2 hours for this to cool completely before you cut it. Like I said, I usually sometimes, depending on my schedule, this can happen in the morning and then it's ready to go for dinner time. So it has plenty time to cool. And if I do it the night before, and I'm going to use it for sandwich bread next day, it's going to be perfect because it had all night to cool. So just keep that in mind. So typically, I know a lot of people who have busy lives, and I'm one of them. I usually start this the morning of or the night of, and this takes me anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to bake from beginning to end. So if you plan it right, you will either have bread the night before or bread first thing the next day. So keep that in mind when you're planning out your sourdough baking. And I hope you stuck around. I appreciate you stopping by the farmhouse, and I'll talk to you guys soon.